Hello, I'm Laura Regan, and I'm the Family Caregiver Support Program Specialist for the Area Agency on Aging at the Piedmont Triad Regional Council. I'm going to review the request for proposal for the Family Caregiver Support Program State Fiscal Year 2023 grant. Before we get started, I want to let you know that all the forms for this program are on the PTRC Area Agency on Aging website on the partner portal. And the family caregiver forms are probably about 2/3 of the way down the page. We ask you to use these forms because they are updated. Please do not use any forms that you might have saved on your computer because they are not going to be the updated forms. Please use these updated forms. So the first page of the RFP is an organization checklist for your proposal. We ask that you use the information on this checklist and in appendices A and B to complete the RFP, and that you mail all required documents, including the checklist, to the PTRC Area Agency on Aging address, to my attention, Laura Regan. The RFPs are due by close of business, and our close of business is 5 p.m. on Friday, June 3rd, 2022. We also ask before you begin processing or working on your request for proposal that you give careful consideration to the amount that you are requesting. If you were an awardee last year and had a plan in place last year and had difficulty spending the funds, please think about what your plan for the coming year would be if you're requesting the same amount or more funds for a particular category that you had difficulty with. We do understand that last year was there were significant challenges, especially in staffing in-home aides that you might use for respite services. So just keep all that in mind as you are funding for this year. If you're aware that you'll be able to do that a little bit easier, that's fine. And if you have any questions, you can always call me. So this organization checklist includes, the typical, we'd like your name and your county, the amount that you're requesting. A cover letter must be included to state the request for the family caregiver funds and how you intend to use them. Below that is an RFP checklist, and we want to make sure that you're checking off each one of these to be sure that they're gathered into your RFP package. And that's your request for proposal signature page. We'll go over that in a minute. That every RFP and budget page are initialed by your executive director, that the Family Caregiver Support Program narrative plan for service categories are completed, that your priority group methodology is completed. These instructions are included in appendices A and B, that your Family Caregiver Support budget form is completed, and that you're submitting pages 1 and 2 of that form, and that any subcontractor or purchase of service agreements that you have copies of those agreements included in your package. So the next page, page 2, is your Family Caregiver Support Program request for proposal signature page, as I mentioned a minute ago. And the first block up there includes your vital information about your the state fiscal year, your organization's name, address, phone number, the name of your executive director and his or her email, and the name of the program lead and his or her email address as well. Remember your grant responsibilities as a funded agency using Family Caregiver Support Program funds. Quarterly, we're going to ask you to attend a PTRC Area Agency on Aging regional quarterly meetings. And this is my first full year as the Family Caregiver Support Program Specialist. So I will be scheduling those meetings very shortly. You should have them within a week or two, beginning with the new fiscal year. And we ask that you, a representative of your organization, attend those meetings. At this point, don't know whether they'll be virtual or in person, or a combination of both. But we will have that information soon. Programmatic and budget change requests are submitted in writing for review and approval from the PTRC Area Agency on Aging using the Family Caregiver Support Program Budget Revision Form, which will be dated and signed. And I would add that keep in mind that, you know, by the time April rolls around, we are getting very late in the fiscal year to start submitting budget revisions. So we want you to consider, as you're spending and looking at your spending throughout the year, if earlier on you feel like there's a category that you're not going to be able to spend, we would ask you to submit those revisions earlier rather than later. The agency, that would be you, maintains the required consumer contributions, forms, and documentations as specified by the Division of Aging and Adult Services Manual, consumer contribution policies, and that's the policy dated February 2013. And that the Family Caregiver Support Program Coordinator attends any existing county Family Caregiver Support Program subcommittee meetings. Specifications of funding monthly. The agency will complete all data entry in the ARM system, and they will keep accurate financial and programmatic records, and will accommodate other requests by the Piedmont Triad Regional Council Area Agency on Aging. And remember, there is a programmatic state funding cap for respite recipients of $2,500. The National Family Caregiver Support, the North Carolina Family Caregiver Support Program logo should be placed on all literature and materials funded in either in part or in whole by the Family Caregiver Support Program. So if you are, you know, purchasing caregiver books or powerful tools for caregivers manuals, whatever, either create a stamp or a sticker that you can put on the inside cover of that to recognize the North Carolina Family Caregiver Support Program. And likewise, if you're purchasing promotional giveaway type items, they need to include the Family Caregiver Support Program logo as well. Please review the RFP instructions in appendices A and B. And you can always contact me with any questions that you may have. At the bottom of this signature page, and this is very important, that you have the signature and title of the authorized person and date. And then below that, you'll see initial. Remember, that page also needs to be initialed by your executive director. Then we move on to service categories. Category 1, plan for information and outreach, and service codes 811, 812, and 814. And in the block below it, we ask you to describe in a narrative form your organization's plan for outreach and providing information and education about the Family Caregiver Support Program and about caregiving topics in general for your caregivers. And describe your category and strategy to accomplish this plan. So describe what you're going to do and describe how you're going to do it. Category 2 is a plan for access to services, and those are codes 821, 822, and 823. 822 is information and assistance. And I would also add that whether or not you choose to fund 822, you still must record all the caregiver related calls, emails, and social media in some type of log, whether that's a phone log or an Excel spreadsheet. You must record that information and include the contact information and referral information as appropriate. And then that information about those number of contacts should be entered into ARMS on a monthly basis. While I'm mentioning ARMS, I will also say it's important to remember that entering into ARMS on a monthly basis helps us to know where you are in the program as far as your spending. And that information also is important for the Division of Aging and Adult Services to know how many folks we are reaching across the state. 823 is caregiver resource consultation. And you should note as far as that, that would be consulting and assessments for caregivers who are receiving either respite under Category 4 or supplemental services under Category 5. And that code had previously been referred to as care management, and now it is the caregiver resource consultation. 8, Category 3 is caregiver counseling and support and training. That's service codes 831, 832, 833, and 835. The agency or you must provide a combination of support groups, evidence-based groups, evidence-based programs like Powerful Tools for Caregivers, and educational classes such as the True Alta Caregiver educational learning platform. And please provide your agency's plan to deliver a combination of these services in the narrative form below. Also, we're asking you to list an anticipated number of classes that you're going to be performing and an anticipated number of participants. So that might be gathered from historical data to help you do that, or you're just projecting the number of participants that you would expect to attend. Category 4 is our respite category. And I would say here that every agency that's providing respite, and you must provide at least a minimum one type of respite option from the list below. Also, category 8, category code 844, caregiver directed vouchers, is not an option. Region G does not support caregiver directed vouchers, so please do not use that code as you're completing your RFP. But you can see the other codes and the descriptions: in-home respite, community respite, residential respite, and then the older relatives as caregiver codes. A day, 847 refers to billing unit as one day, and that might be like financially supporting the child of an older adult, the child that the older adult relative is caring for, to go to a summer day camp program. And then 848, which is hourly, is self-explanatory, I think. 849, other respite approved by DAS. If you're going to do any other respite, you must have that pre-approved by DAS before you do it. And the way to do that is to contact the Piedmont Triad Regional Council, Area Agency on Aging. You can call me at 336-904-0300 or L. Regan at ptrc.org. And I will forward that request to the Division of Aging and Adult Services prior to you funding that. And you can get more information about that on page 13 of the Family Caregiver Support Program Manual, the 2020 revision. more information about respite itself and descriptions of what intermittent respite is versus occasional versus emergency respite. So please explore your manual. That should be out and be your best friend at all times. Please document any respite policies that your agency may have, including internal respite caps or one-time limit respite caps for caregivers. And I would also suggest that at this time, if you don't have those policies in place, it might be a good time to develop them as you're working on this RFP. Category 5 is planned for supplemental services. And for this category, no more than 20% of your total budget can be dedicated to supplemental services. And once again, you must provide at least one of the category 5 services. And you can see what those include: handyman, assistive technology, home modification, personal response, incontinence, liquid nutrition such as Boost or Ensure, temporary home delivered meals, legal assistance. And then 862 is again other supplemental services approved by the Division of Aging and Adult Services. So remember, that would have to come through us and be approved before you could offer that. And 863 is transportation. The next question is, how will your agency ensure that the Family Caregiver Support Program clients receive temporary, and that's in quotation marks, temporary funding assistance, and that funds will not duplicate or supplant other existing services? And temporary is defined in the Family Caregiver Support Program Manual as a short period of relief. Again, that is intermittent, occasional, or emergency. And sometimes we have caregivers whose care recipient might be receiving some type of limited service, some type of limited personal care service. If you have any questions about that, please call me. But also remember, and we're getting to that next, is that you want to prioritize those people receiving services. So if you have a waiting list and you have folks that are not receiving any services, of course, they would be a higher priority on your wait list. The priority for group methodology to address service needs, again, reference your Family Caregiver Support Program Manual, dated July 1, 2020, Section 5, Service Provision B, Priority Populations and Targeting Outreach. And in the space below, we want you to describe how the needs of those most economically and socially needy, with attention to low-income minority individuals according to the Older Americans Act revision of the amendment of 2020 will be prioritized in the delivery of your services. Include your method or your methodology. How are you going to do this to address meeting the service needs of each of the following service priority groups? And remember, these are your service priority. Those with an income at or below the federal poverty line, individuals with physical or mental disabilities, those who are socially isolated, individuals who are historically underrepresented, rural elders and their caregivers, and the frail elderly and their caregivers. Remember here, the caregiver is always the client. I would like you to review the service provisions, eligibility, and priority target populations on page 8 and 9 before you complete this. Page 8 and 9 of the Family Caregiver Support Program Manual before you complete this, so that when you're addressing and when you're completing this methodology, that you are sure that you include how you're going to reach all of these priority groups. Once we get past those categories, then we have our appendices, Appendix A and Appendix B. And again, at the beginning of Appendix A, it talks about priority group methodology and target populations. And the narrative must also address eligibility criteria in the section below, as well as address at least one or more of these poverty groups. And that's caregivers caring for older adults 60 and older with neurological or organic brain dysfunction, such as Alzheimer's disease or related dementias, caregivers of an adult of any age with severe disabilities, older caregivers 60 and older with the greatest social and economic needs, with particular attention to low-income, minority, rural, and those caregivers with limited English proficiency. And relative caregivers, and in the case of older relatives raising children, that is unlike the rest of the Family Caregiver Support Program caregivers, this person may be 55 or plus rather than 60 or plus. Grandparents or other relatives 55 or over caring for a grandchild or a child of who is a relative by blood, marriage, or adoption. And usually we call that grandparents raising grandchildren of a child that is 18 years of age or younger. Eligible program participants are adult family members or other informal and unpaid caregivers age 18 and older who are providing care to individuals age 60 or older, adult family members or other informal and unpaid caregivers 18 and older providing care to individuals of any age with Alzheimer's disease and a related disorder. So you may have a wife caring for a husband who's got early dementia in his late 50s. And so that would qualify. And if you have any questions about particular situations, again, please reach out to me. Or grandparents and other relatives 55 years of age or older and providing care to children under the age of 18. Or older relatives, including parents 55 years of age and older, providing care to adults aged 18 to 59 who have disabilities. And in addition to the eligibility requirements above, the Older Americans Act specifies that the caregiver receiving respite Category 4 or supplemental services Category 5 must be providing care to a recipient who meets the definition of frail. Frail means that the older individual is determined to be functionally impaired because he or she is unable to perform at least 2 activities of daily living without substantial human assistance. And that includes verbal cueing, physical cueing or supervision, or who due to a cognitive or other mental impairment requires substantial supervision because the individual behaves in a manner that would pose a serious threat to his health and safety or to the health and safety of another individual. Appendix A continues with the budget requirements, and you will be submitting a family caregiver program budget form, pages 1 and 2. Again, use the budget form that's located on our PTRC Area Agency on Aging website under the partner portal. That is the budget forms you should be using. Do not use old budget forms because they will not match what we will be reviewing. Remember, as you complete the budget forms, again, no more than 20% of an applicant's family caregiver budget can be allocated for Category 5 supplemental services unless written approval is obtained from the PTRC Area Agency on Aging. And providers need to provide services in a minimum of 3 service categories. And at least one type of respite, Category 4, and one type of supplemental service, Category 5, must be offered. And funds here, as we're talking about supplemental services, because I think it's happened sometimes in the past when people are purchasing those services. And also it occurs sometimes when folks are getting ready to do a resource fair and they're looking for something like a giveaway or a door prize or something like that, and gift cards have been purchased. Gift cards are not allowed. Do not purchase gift cards for any reason with Family Caregiver Support Program money. And included in gift cards would be gasoline cards. So do not purchase gasoline cards either. No gift cards and no gasoline cards. Cannot stress that enough. There is a respite cap of $2,500 per client for in that category for respite. Please include your staff name, position, and any benefit expenses for staff that you are charging to the grant. In benefits, please include the FICA, insurance, retirement, using the staff lines. And please note if that staff person is part-time or full-time. Unit rates are required for unit-based services. Please indicate the number of clients estimated to be served. And note, without a unit rate or client numbers, the Family Caregiver Support Program budget cannot be processed. So if you get that budget in late and it's right on the deadline and that information is not included, that form cannot be processed. If outside agencies are used and listed on pages 4 and or 5 of your RFP, either as a subcontractor or as a purchase of service agreement, please include their names and a description on the Family Caregiver Support Program budget form. And this is a new stipulation. If using either a subcontractor or a purchase of service agency, you must include a copy of that contract or that purchase of service agreement with your RFP. And an explanation for that can be found on page 39 of your Family Caregiver Support Program manual, and a description of a subcontractor versus a purchase of service relationship. The last appendix is Appendix B, which includes your service categories and codes. That's pretty self-explanatory. So that really concludes the information session. Please remember to download and sign and date the form that attests to the fact that you did view this video, and you'll be, because you are responsible for the information included in it. And I would also again let you know that I'm here as your Family Caregiver Support Program Specialist. If you have questions as you're completing this RFP or throughout the coming state fiscal year, if you are awarded funds, I'm here to help you and provide technical assistance to you throughout the year. I have had questions about our regional quarterly meetings. I will begin my first full fiscal year as the Family Caregiver Support Program Specialist, and I am working on developing a calendar of those regional quarterly meetings, which you will all have in hand before the start of the new fiscal year. Just to be thinking about it, probably July or very early August will be the first meeting, and still considering whether that will be in person or virtual. And they will include information about the Family Caregiver Support Program, some other educational information as well that would support and help your caregivers. And we will also review, issues that might be surfacing throughout the year. Again, remember that request and budget what you truly believe you can spend. Complete your narratives describing what you plan to do and how you're going to do it. And consider throughout the year, pay close attention to the areas where you may be underspending. If we need to do revisions, we would rather know that earlier rather than later, because we need to help you decide where you may move those funds internally to meet the needs of the family caregivers in your county. So that's all I have. Again, my email address is lregan@ptrc.org, and you can reach me by phone at 336-904-0300. Best wishes as you complete these proposals. Thank you.